Welcome to the Astoria Film Festival Step and Repeat interviews. Today we're speaking with Brian Walters and Andrew Fegan, whose film Zoom In appears in our 2020 festival.
How did you guys come up with the sort of like idea? What was it inspired by?
Yeah, I actually wrote it on a train ride while I was in Japan. I grew up in Yokohama, Japan, so yeah, I had an hour train ride, so I thought, let me just jot this idea down. I personally was always inspired by the Twilight Zone growing up. I kind of watched it pretty religiously. It was always on TV for me, so grew up with that kind of stuff. And when Andrew and I hang out, we tend to talk about different storylines and have like weird twists at the end. And so when I pitched this idea to him, that kind of naturally kind of went along with what we did last time with Not a Hair Out of Place.
I think both of us kind of like, kind of bizarre, surreal storylines, and we both like to have a sense of humor in anything we're doing too. So I think there's like a bit of cartoonishness in both of those films. And I think it's just like Brian said earlier, Not a Hair Out of Place was a similar thing where we were just trying to write within a budget and come up with something that could be made very cheaply and it could still kind of look good without spending a lot, like to come up with a story that's appropriate for a low budget. So to kind of have no dialogue and keep it all in one location and to be able to shoot it, both of those films we ended up shooting in the apartment that I was living at the time. So it was just kind of like, I think both of them, we were just trying to get a project done and we kind of just went back to that student film style of like, what can we make with the resources that we have available to us? You know, how can we use what we got and make something good out of it?
In terms of the music, you sort of touched on it. What inspired it? It was definitely something that was really intriguing and something that like really added to the story.
Thank you. Yeah, Brian, he came up with the original idea that he wanted something that had like a dub reggae sound to it. So he sent me several tracks by an artist named King Tubby, who I hadn't heard before. And so we used that as the first round of the edit I did. I used one of his tracks as like a temp music and a jumping off point. But then from there, I didn't want to make something that sounded exactly like that. I wanted something that was kind of more spacey and synthy. And it was also like, I've done a couple little short film scores before. But for this one, since there was no dialogue, I was able to kind of go all out on drums and percussion, which is something I wanted to do, and have kind of a beat for the whole thing. But yeah, I wanted something that would kind of just guide you through the story and match the tone of it as it was unfolding. And there were like, you know, different parts of the story where the mood would change a little bit. And I was just kind of trying to go with that.
Is there any advice that you'd give for someone that's starting out in the industry?
Yeah, I would say, like we've been saying, write within a budget. You know, write something that you can do with the resources available to you. When you're still in the practice phase, don't break the bank on it. You know, save your money up for when you're really ready to make that swing, and just kind of learn the fundamentals. You know, like come up with little projects like this that you can just knock out in a couple days with your friends, and then once you've got those turning out the way that you want them to, you know, once the thing that you had in your head is actually coming out on the screen, I think that's when you ramp it up a notch and try to go for something bigger. But I would say just take it one step at a time, you know, start small and work your way up, and try to use those limitations as a strength, you know, try to get as creative as you can with the resources that you have and have fun with it, you know, really.
I would say preparation is key, but don't be married to it. You know, things always change up on set. So if you lose all the prep work that you did and you get angry at it, you're wasting time, you know. I also think that you should be prepared enough with like lists and different things like that so that when you're done, you don't have things that you missed, you know, that you're like, oh man, we need to recreate that whole thing and do reshoots and all that. You don't want to go through that. So just stay calm and just communicate and just double check that you have everything done. We didn't have that issue this time around, but yeah. I think that's
Yeah, no, I think because it was pretty small scale too, but he's absolutely right. When you get onto set, like your brain is going to be on a million things that are changing on that day. So when you're planning things out, put it on paper and just make that like whatever your brain is doing ahead of time, whatever you want to be in the film, make sure that's written down and make sure that's in front of you on set, because you will be thinking of 30 other things on the day that it happens. And that's the best way to just keep things calm and relaxed and get your work done, is to prepare it and write it down, and then you know what you need.
And what's next for you two, whether it be as a duo or separately?
and I guess like refining and reworking scripts so that when the opportunity does come for a bigger budget, that I can have my cards laid out and prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, similar. I've been working on some writing. I've still been dealing with the challenge of kind of trying to come up with a feature-length film that would be low budget and small scale like this to do first, and hopefully with Brian. I'm really looking to push more into doing more scores and music work too. I just set up a website for myself for that, so I'm hoping to push that out there. I do editing work right now, but I really love doing those film scores. So that's something that I hope is going to be a part of the future.
You know, we both live in Astoria, so we're Astorians, and I used to do, before the COVID and everything, I used to do a movie night called Sauce to Cinemas in the neighborhood. So just throwing it out there for the Astoria Film Festival as well, that we do drinking games and different movie events. So
Oh, it's really cool.
yeah.